So when cyber psychology started to emerge as a discipline within social sciences, you started to focus on how people were being changed and influenced by these new mediums of technology or phones or being able to chat with each other online. So yeah, both really evolved as the tools we have evolved.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Mahan here from Tech Circus with another interview ahead of the UX Live conference coming this February 24th to 25th. I'm joined today by Andrea Lewis, the Global Director of User Experience Research at Adidas. Andrea is also a cyber psychologist and digital strategist with over 20 years of experience in the online industry. So thanks for joining me today, Andrea. You're very welcome.
Oh, great to be here. Thank you.
So just to start off with, I suppose, how did you get involved in UX research and operations? How did it, did you start off there? Did you kind of end up there as you moved along in your career?
Yeah, not really, not at all. It's sort of the end point. Started in psychology, just doing psychology research for companies and doing early research. Then sort of UX and digital came along, and really just saw the overlap between the two areas, and it became a passion area. So I started out as a UX consultant generally, but then more and more focused on research, and now UX research is my core focus, and operations is just inherent in that. You need it to grow teams, you need it to manage knowledge in your organization, so it's really critical.
I thought it was really interesting there. I'd never heard of a cyber psychologist, but obviously it's such a big thing for UX. And was that something that then for psychology kind of brought you into the UX side of things initially in your training?
It was more that, it was probably more that psychology and the internet, just seeing the whole digital world, that brought me to cyber psychology. And then from there, UX was starting to grow as a field. I'd already seen sort of digital beginning, and we were making websites, but we weren't really focusing on user needs or looking at the users so much. We were still ideating from a place of what we thought was best for online experiences or digital experiences. So when cyber psychology started to emerge as a discipline within social sciences, you started to focus on how people were being changed and influenced by these new mediums of technology or phones or being able to chat with each other online. So yeah, both really evolved as the tools we have evolved.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a huge topic. We had the Web3 conference yesterday, and there was a lot of speakers kind of touching on that and the transformative elements of kind of Web 2 on people and how we've kind of grown up in this new digital world. But it's probably a different interview, but I'd say a great topic. I'm really into it. And what are some kind of common misconceptions that you see about UX research? Is there anything, like, if there's UX researchers listening, is there anything you could offer them that they think might help them day to day?
Yeah, I think the common misconception is that maybe it's about research and your research study, right? That you just come in, you do a bit of research for your team, and they'll be happy with your research and get on with it. But that's not really the job. The job is more about understanding. I think first you as a researcher making sure that you understand your research, you understand your users, you understand your stakeholders, you understand every aspect of all your audiences. But then your job is also to make sure that the people you're working with understand your users and their needs as well. So it's not just about delivering research. It's not throwing it over the fence. It's really making sure that that knowledge gets embedded with the people that you're working with, creating a service, creating a product, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, and there seems to be an element there of communication as well. It seems to be a big thing with the people in UX I speak to, feeling heard, feeling like your work is appreciated, communicating it to people that might be in other departments and just going, whatever, we have a budget, we got to rush things through. That seems to be a big skill set that has to be built.
Yeah, absolutely. Always, right? It's just the core of human interaction.
Corporate life.
Making sure
also.
that we understand each other, corporate life, everything. Yeah. But as we navigate this digital world and we use it to communicate, to buy things, to travel, it just becomes so more and more important that when we build these things, we know why we're creating them. We know how they're going to be effective. And that really is those who are closest to the users knowing how to communicate that to the rest of the team. And it's not just going to be in a research report. You're going to have to spend time with them. and make sure that that knowledge is embedded and reflected in the products and services you make.
Yeah, exactly. And is it something that you think should be done as kind of a beginning at the process? You know, are you involved from the inception of like product design, or is it, you know, as it's ongoing? Does there come a point where it's kind of like, well, you know, this should have been done at the start, and we're kind of, you know, does it get more difficult as it goes on?
Yeah, I think there's so many projects where you wish you could go back to the start, but you often don't have that ability. So you've got to deal with the here and now. Yeah, no time machine. So you've got to be able to do both magically. You've got to deal with the issues in the here and now, but you often got to figure out how you can do better. And all of that is team and communication. You know, the researcher may have some of those insights about what's wrong, what's not perfect, but how you get from imperfect to perfect or better, well, that's a whole team, that's a whole effort making that switch. So indeed, you may see issues now and wish you could start fresh, but you can't just throw away the whole website or the whole service or the whole product and start from scratch. You've got to, figure out ways to fix it now and also fix it for the long term. And I think that's the beautiful challenge of what we do in UX work and design work.
And is it something that you, as you go on and you get more experience, that for the next project, then you might spot these things kind of earlier, maybe, or you might go, you know, I've crossed this bridge before. This seems, yeah. And is it difficult then to, I suppose, to tell people that maybe if they haven't seen it, and you know, are you always fighting battles on that front?
I think it's more that you see patterns, and you may see those patterns and may be aware of the solution ahead of time, but everybody has to come on that journey, and all of those journeys are unique. So even though you may know the answer and you know how to get there, getting everyone to come along on that journey and also be enthusiastic on that journey as well, because that's a big part of it. It's hard work, what we do every day. Exactly, I think that is always unique. And so even though you may know how to get there and how to solve it, it's going to be different for every organization and every team. And that's really, I think, where the challenge comes in. If you've been doing it a long time, that's exactly what gets you out of bed every day, knowing that, hey, it's a new set of people that I'm working with, and it's a new landscape, a new challenge. So that's a good thing, I think. That's what keeps you on your toes. But yes, indeed, having done it and seen it many times before helps you to solve it just that bit faster. And I think that's what people really get when they get senior leaders in the UX industry. You know, people who can hit the ground running. They've solved it before, but something about your org will always make it a unique journey for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that experience, or being the kind of senior researcher, from what I've heard, is that, you know, it's very hard to define exactly what it is, like, because I know there's a lot of like strategy and stuff and you're kind of putting it down, but there is this kind of element of like having done it enough times and having like learned from on the job that's very hard to quantify, I think. I wonder, is there anything, is there any insights that are coming up for you that might be useful to other researchers on that, or is that just like endurance, I suppose, that you just have to like keep going?
It is 100%. It's endurance. But I really think what we're talking about here, these extra things that make our work easier, those patterns we see over time, those best practices we get to know, that's research ops. We can call it a fancy name, we can call it something, but ultimately it's how we do our work better, faster, at scale, with more impact. All of those things are these tangential things that surround the craft of research. It's not the research itself, but it's these things that help to make it have that impact that we're all hoping for. And that is research operations. And I see research ops as the vertical within my practice. It has to be core, because without it, without standards and practices, without good ways of working, all else falls down. So yeah, I think that's part of the endurance, learning those habits, having those templates, knowing those ways of working. All of it is research ops. So I'm really looking forward to this talk.
Yeah, and exactly, that dovetails in very nicely. I suppose, is there anything more you can tell us about the talk that's going to be at the live conference?
Yeah, I'm going to share a lot about my personal experience of seeing our discipline evolve, and even something like research operations come from a thought in your mind to now actual teams within large organizations dedicated to this practice within a practice within a practice. So that's really the focus of my talk, how all of this has evolved, what research operations has meant to me on a very practical and tactical level through some case studies that I'll share, and just some thinking. So I hope others will share that and just share some of my lessons learned and maybe benefit from some of the things that some of the scratches and endurance along the way.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it's the perfect way to communicate those kind of lessons. And yeah, for other people, any UXers out there and UX researchers that are gonna, that are still climbing that ladder and figuring it out. And is there any message that you'd like to give any UXers or UX researchers that might be listening? Is there anything you think would be good for them to hear ahead of the talk?
Our industry is brilliant. Keep at it. It's only growing. It's only getting more diverse. All of these subdisciplines and ways of working, this shows us that we're doing something good, that we're starting to differentiate into research strategy and more tactical research and usability and research operations. This is fantastic. This just shows how important UX is to this modern world and modern living. So have hope. If you're just starting out, keep going. If you're in it, don't give up. And there's lots more to do. And so many brands and services and products need our insight and our help to understand their users. So keep going. It's a wonderful place to work.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Andrea, and really looking forward to the talk at the conference. So we'll see you there.
Yeah, me too. Thanks. Thanks, everyone.